for people with asthma, this is a huge thing as well.
Right.
Because when you start to get an asthma attack, what do? You go to your mouth.
Yeah. Start hyperventilating.
Yeah. What does that do? It dries out the mouth.
Yeah.
You're dumping carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide's a vasodilator. So if you take over and breathe through the nose and start to build up levels of carbon dioxide, for most people with the correct training, it completely dissipates the asthma attack altogether. Wow. Yeah, so people who learn Buteyko, with a good chunk of them who give it a good crack, they completely get off their inhalers.
I love that.
Yeah. So if you look up on Wikipedia or something about Buteyko breathing, they'll tell you that it's unproven and that it doesn't cure asthma. Okay, it doesn't cure the underlying asthma.
Yeah.
But if you can never touch on, if you could completely get rid of the symptoms of cancer, but still have essentially some sort of cancer in your body,
cells, right? Yeah.
then cancer is not a problem. So you wouldn't call it a cure, but it would be a good solution.
Yeah. Fucking oath.
And asthma inhalers are really bad for you long term.
Yeah. Welcome to another episode of the Interchange podcast, and thank you for joining me, your host, Ben Lowe. And today I'm joined by Michael Crusher. So before we go into who Michael is, I just have one very small favour to ask, and that is if you have been enjoying the content, even just the slightest little bit, the teeniest little bit, if you could please go and hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to share this with just one of your friends that you feel might appreciate what's going to be said on this podcast. Because as you know, the more eyes and ears we can get on this platform, the bigger and better guests I can bring for you guys, which means the more value I'm going to be able to deliver for you. But over to Michael Crusher. So Michael is actually someone that I met down at the Byron Bay, the skydiving drop zone. Now he's got a pretty interesting story with death. It's not something I've really spoken about on this podcast before. He's a breathwork facilitator and just a fucking all-round good human, and I'm really excited to share his story. So Mike, Crusher, my man.
Yeah, bro.
I appreciate it.
To be here.
Oh, bro, it's fucking exciting, hey.
So, my nickname's Crusher, but my last name is actually just Crush.
Crush. There we go. Oh, well, now we've established that, I'm going to have to restart and do the intro again. I don't think I can nail it that good again. That was off the cuff and it fucking works, bro, and I'm all for it. Nah, cool, we'll run with it.
Yeah.
Michael Crusher Crush.
Yeah. Just crushing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
and that is my real last name.
Crushing it at life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I do my best.
My man. So obviously we met through skydiving. And obviously pretty extreme sport. A lot of people look at me like I'm fucking crazy. And I mean, I think you're even like a level above that. And we've already spoken about this off air plenty of times, but you had a bit of a addiction to extreme sports and really pushing life to the limits because of a near-death experience you had when you were younger. Let's go into that straight away, but I want to hit it.
Should we set the scene?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so in 1989, I was living in Samoa with my parents.
And how old were you then?
So I was 7 for most of it. And then we'd come back to New Zealand for our Christmas holidays.
Most of 1987?
Most in 1989. Yeah. And then my birthday's the 23rd of December.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so we'd actually been back to New Zealand for the Christmas holidays, I think. Come back to Samoa just with Dad. So it was me and my dad there. And we got hit by a cyclone Ofa.
Hectic.
So that was January 1990, I think. And that was an experience in it itself.
Oh, man, I can't imagine.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, actually.
What category?
Good question. It was enough of a... So there's where the ferry is parked up at the wharf. When we went and checked out the damage, the ferry was 100 metres off the wharf on the land. So whatever category that is, it was big. Yeah. And our house at the time was this little house built on stilts that was right next to a big cliff as well. So we ended up spending most of the time over at our Australian neighbours. I'm a Kiwi. So we're over at the Aussie neighbours. We had a cyclone party with them. They had the barbie going in the garage.
Yeah.
They were super hard case, those guys. And we got through the cyclone.
Yeah.
Anyways, we went out afterwards inspecting some of the damage. And we were with some of Dad's family friends. It was just me, when it's like you with your boy, you're carting them around sometimes and they're just doing their thing out there.
The added extra.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm that. I'm the added extra, just cruising around doing my thing. And then I'd already had a few episodes of passing out, like fainting, or a few times I had seizures, like just a couple, not enough to like warrant as epilepsy or anything at this stage.
I'm still, how old are you?
7? 7 when that started,
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, since found out it could have been a condition that's been labelled Pallid Breath Syndrome, where sometimes you just hold your breath and it brings on either a seizure or fainting. I met someone a couple of years ago when I was working at the indoor skydiving place in Sydney that her daughter had that.
And that's just without being conscious, you're stopping breathing. It just happens.
Yeah. Everything starts to black out.
Yeah.
You get the tunnel vision. Very similar to when I've blacked out freediving, actually. A very similar experience.
We'll talk about that as well.
Yeah, kind of euphoric. So I'm out, but it's when it's happening to you unconsciously, when you don't kind of know what's going on, it can be scaring, especially when it's happened a couple of times and you're losing control. So this had happened this time. I was like, oh no, it's starting, and I didn't know how to like make it not start, and was just sort of standing by myself. All the adults are kind of over here, I'm here, and then poof, out on the ground. So unbeknownst to me, my heart had completely stopped this time.
Wow.
And I'd stopped breathing.
Yeah, wow.
Completely stopped breathing. My lips were blue, and luckily there was Dad's family friend who was a nurse, and she gave me CPR and eventually brought me back. Somewhere like 3 minutes later, they reckon. Dad said time was a bit of a blur, but a good 3 minutes.
Oh yeah, for him
Yeah.
that would have happened in a second.
Oh yeah, 3 minutes when your kid's there with blue lips and no heartbeat would have been an eternity.
That's
So
fucking
I feel
heavy,
for
bro.
him there,
Yeah,
yeah.
man.
And anyways, I went to a place, and I've really looked into near-death experiences since then, more as an adult,
Yeah.
because at the time we just kind of like got in the panic mode of like trying to find out what this is and can we fix it and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I didn't really like kind of think about it. The only way I could describe it as a kid was that it was very peaceful. But I also realized that it's not like I was just somewhere black. Like I didn't have a body, I didn't have a mind, and this is hard for people to get their head around, because I talk about pure consciousness, and it was when I found yoga that you hear about this term pure consciousness, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, for a
Just
lot of
that
people,
bliss
this is
point, right?
yeah, and people are like, this is so vague. What is this? And it's when you're still conscious, but you don't have a brain to go, oh, this is cool.
Yeah. It's
Or
just
you're
pure
not like,
nothingness, right?
yeah, you're not even pure nothingness.
Right.
There's a something. It's like you're in a place, and I remember kind of textures and colors and
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, almost kind of like a psychedelic trip in a sense. I think that's probably why I got into those for a few
We've
years.
had a few of those in our time.
Yeah, yeah. Back in the day of skydiving, we definitely experimented. We can talk about some of those later too.
Fuck yeah.
And yeah, I was in this place, but I was conscious. And this is the thing, I was still conscious. And this is the thing I'm trying to kind of get my head around, was I was still there. And there was no time. And a friend challenged me on like, well, what does that mean? And my answer was, well, it was like I just got there and I'd always been there all at the same time. It was like being home. I was just there. And yeah, it was just, and I still have very vivid memory of it. Like there's things that I wouldn't remember from that time, but I have a very vivid memory of
Very
that.
like
Yeah.
impactful memory, right?
And then getting brought back. Yeah, if you got brought back in a way where you're on some couches and some big like cushions and you just came back in your own time and you kind of got your bearings again, you'd be like, whoa, what was that?
Yeah. It would have been a good time.
It would have been a really good time. But I came back through this tunnel having, I wasn't the person that you're looking at for a few minutes. So it's just the pure consciousness that lies beyond that. And I get ripped back into this world with 5 adults standing over top of me, screaming my name, trying to get me to respond. And I'm like, what? I had no idea what what was going on.
Huh?
What are these things? What are they saying? What's going on? And it took me a little while to come fully back into my body. And that was probably the most terrifying experience about it.
Getting stuck out of that place and back up.
I was coming back, yeah. So when I was doing tandem skydiving for years, I stopped doing that about 4 years ago. We're doing the movie for the start of it, and you're like, oh, how are you feeling about today? And a very common response was, I don't want to die. And I had 2 responses for it. One was, you're going to die one day. I'll do my best to make sure it's not today.
Yeah, hopefully it's not
But
today.
you might want to get to terms with that's going to happen sooner or later, right? And my favorite response was, dying's actually very pleasant. It's coming back that's the hard part. The cool thing was to see
Bro,
people's
people would
reactions.
be shook.
Oh, yeah. Well, It was a really good test to like see what kind of person
What kind of
someone
person
was.
it was. Yeah.
Because it was a very unconscious person. I say unconscious in a way that they had, very kind of just living in this reality and afraid of everything, right?
Yeah.
They would just shrug it off and you'd see they'd give me that look like, is
Is
this
this
guy?
fucking guy right?
Yeah. Or the other people would be like, what? What? And then they'd ask about the story. And then with them, I'd freely share the story and tell
That's
them about
cool.
it. Yeah.
That's really cool.
And it was just, I think it's a nice little distraction from the skydive. And yeah.
Yeah.
And it just puts things in perspective a little bit.
100%.
Yeah.
So from that point on, you didn't fear death.
No, not really. No.
And how do you think that would have impacted your life? Because
I mean, I still fear death to a point where we all have this natural fear of death, like an animal has a fear of being eaten or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I still had fear in my life.
yeah, of course.
The first time I went bungee jumping was when I was 13 and I was shitting bricks. I can swear on this podcast, I assume.
Fuck yeah, bro.
Yeah, swear.
Haven't you heard me?
Yeah.
Have you not?
I have.
The host can share, but you cannot. I swear, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, so I did my first bungee jump when I was 13. It was something that I really wanted to do because I was terrified of heights. I used to have those falling dreams as a kid.
Me too, bro. I
Yeah,
have those,
those getting to the top of a cliff.
Yeah, it's the stop at the bottom that wakes you up, though.
Yep. Always the stop at the bottom
Yep.
that woke me up. Whether it was standing at the edge of the cliff and falling up, most of mine were climbing a ladder at the top of a huge cliff and then the ladder falling backwards.
Almost like losing your grip, or the actual ladder itself.
The whole ladder itself just was tipping backwards.
That would have been like base jumping feeling,
Huge
right?
cliff. Well,
Or like the bungee
Not-
free fall.
yeah, and you did have that free fall
Yeah.
experience, right? It's
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I was always terrified of heights. First time we went abseiling when I was a teenager at school, my legs were shaking, and this time when I went bungee jumping, for some reason I wanted to do it, had to sit down like 4 or 5 times because they count you in like the 5, 4, 3, and
Yeah.
I'd get to 3 and have to sit down.
Yeah.
Terrified. Thankfully there weren't too
Was
many
this
people looking.
off the big one over in...
This was in Hamner Springs.
Okay.
Yeah, small one.
NZ?
Yeah, in New Zealand. Yeah, just out of Christchurch.
Yeah,
One of the
yeah,
smaller ones, not like the more popular
Where's
ones
that
in
big one?
Queenstown.
Telpo?
Nevis,
Queenstown?
Nevis is Queenstown, yeah. Yeah, that wasn't even
AJ
a
had
thing.
one, right? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, AJ Hackett started in Queenstown at the smaller one, the bridge. They all used to be off bridges for a while. Because this one was old school too. It just had Velcro around my ankles. So it wasn't like I was in the full harness or anything.
Yeah, Velcro with a towel.
Yep.
That's gnarly, hey. That's the
Yeah.
first one I did as well, bro.
Someone came out about 10 years later. On the
that makes me
recoil,
feel
they
weird.
landed in the river. I think they were okay, but they shut down for a while.
I can imagine.
Where's I going with that? Yeah. So I did this bungee and like I still had that fear of death in a way, but more like the fear of getting injured. But the cool thing about that was that I had this amazing dopamine rush and serotonin and all these things for like hours afterwards. And that probably hit me on this path of adventure sport.
Yeah.
Skiing was always something that I wanted to do. So I got into skiing for years. I was a ski instructor was kind of my in. Then I managed to be a ski patroller. And then through the avalanche safety stuff, did a couple of years of heli ski guiding as well.
That would have been pretty cool.
Yeah.
What are some sick moments there, bro? Number one
yeah.
takeaway from heli skiing.
My number one takeaway?
Yeah, or best fucking like best adventure you had, or biggest fuck up, or
Or the coolest thing was throwing bombs out of helicopters to make avalanches happen.
that's like some James Bond shit, bro.
It was pretty cool, man.
That's pretty gnarly, eh?
Yeah. So we had a special kind of heli ski place there. We called it Heli Park.
Yeah.
Or my boss called it Heli Park. So we had like these one couple of peaks, like a big bowl. And after a fresh snow, we'd go and blast the hell out of it and make it as safe as we could. And then, so we'd do a run up.
Safe with doing dangerous things.
Safe-ish, yeah. Risk, what do they call it? Risk mitigation.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. So then we'd take everyone up there. We'd give everyone avalanche beacons, and but we ran it differently. So most heli skiing places, you have your guide, and the guide has their 4 or 5 people, and the guide skis down, and everyone follow me and stay within this kind of zone. And usually it's in this big wide open bowl. At Heli Park, we'd drop people off at the top, and one guide would go up in the helicopter with them, and all roads leaded to Rome, which was the bottom of the valley. So sometimes maybe 2 guides would go up in the first one one guide would ski down, kind of show the path, but you could go away from that path if you wanted to. And then one would stay at the top and another one would be at the bottom loading people up. So it was kind of just almost a free-for-all. And then so the guide who was unloading people at the top, he would ski down as the other ones came up, so we could kind of keep an eye on everyone.
So you had like 2 helis going or 1 heli going? So
one heli going.
They'd drop people off, they'd come down. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, we had it pretty slick. And then we'd just kind of run all the different peaks throughout the day, depending on how many people. So you just pay per run. So we just had a little pass and you just click every time you got in the helicopter. And the start of the day, you got your first run and your trip home as part of it. And then every run on top of that was
extra.
Yeah, it was extra. It was a pretty unique thing, actually.
That's really cool.
Yeah, they started off with cat skiing and then they got into this.
That's really cool. But
yeah.
The extreme sports side of things. So.
Yeah. And then one year I got back from Japan after guiding over there, and my housemate worked at Skydive Wanaka and they needed someone to fill in for a few weeks, and the snow hadn't arrived in Wanaka yet. So I helped out. I drove the van and put them in harnesses. And so I got to kind of know the boys, and I say boys like it is a male-dominated industry, as you would have seen down in Byron.
Yeah, 100%.
Girls, there's definitely female tandem instructors, but they're few and far between. It's a pretty physical job, and you know, all for equal rights. Anyone can do it, but you can't make any concessions. You can either do that job or you can't, right? So it is male-dominated. So I was talking to the boys there anyway, and got to know like how they got into skydiving, and was just really interested. Was watching them when they're flying their own parachutes, when they were flying video, and I was like, "Wow, that's pretty cool." And then they took me for a jump as part of that, and I was like, "Sign me up to that store." So I went and worked the winter, and then after the winter finished, I got a job as a building labourer, and signed up for skydiving school. Started skydiving school January 2009.
Oh, so it's not that long ago.
Yeah, it's coming up 15 years.
Yeah,
is it? Yeah, 14 years. No, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Is it? Yeah.
So you started skydiving 15 years ago?
Yeah. 27 years old, I started. It's never too late.
No, 100%.
Yeah. And we had people on that course like in their 40s, same age as I am now.
Yeah, I'm actually just lining my dad up to take him. He's just working through a couple of things because his wife is like, no, you're not taking him. I'm like, I'm not asking. I'm telling you, he's coming. I paid for it for Christmas. It's his Christmas present. You're gonna rob me of that experience? No, fuck you. It's about him and me.
Yeah, sick.
You know, she's not having a bar. She's not having a bar, and he's fucking folded. And she's got him like,
oh.
So but yeah. So and he's 75.
Really?
76. Yeah. So he's keen to do it.
Man, I've taken people in their 80s. They love it.
100%.
They shouldn't be denied the right to go.
No, 100%.
Everyone should have the right to do that. I think it's an amazing experience.
So obviously after having that near-death experience, I guess, and then coming into skydiving, how does skydiving change your life and your perspective on things?
Well, you're always a little bit closer to that at least perceived edge of death. With all those kinds of things, like snow safety, the snow stuff probably even more so. Like there's a lot more factors that you can control in a skydive.
Sure.
Whereas, we always had the saying that an avalanche doesn't know you're an expert. So there was always that thing in the back of your mind that an avalanche could take you.
Like we're talking about off air, that storm that happened the other night that I got caught in.
Yeah.
And we're literally talking about me and the guy I was with beforehand. Like we are literally just fragile little insects. If you look at it, we're literally someone's ant farm. If you look down from above, there's someone looking down on us, and it's just like, look at these little ants. And we look at that and like, look at these other little ants, and it's just like, we're that to someone else.
Yeah.
Legit.
And we have one of those living in our gut. I was just listening to a podcast about the gut microbiome. You know, if you pull far away from Earth, you can't see any of us on there. You have to like look really close. And the same thing with our gut microbiome. There's something trillions. There's more guts in your more microbes in your colon than there is people on the planet.
Crazy, hey?
By like a few trillion. I think there's like 3 trillion or something. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's another subject.
That is another subject.
Yeah, so I had probably like a different reframe around death to most people. I wasn't afraid of it because I knew what it was. And I still have fear, like we were talking about. Yeah. But yeah, if I actually died, I wasn't that worried about it. And you know, I was into base jumping for a little bit. I had kind of dabbled in that. When I first started skydiving, that was one of the things I really wanted to get into, especially from skiing. There was a skier, Shane McConkey.
I've watched his not MTV, his Red Bull video, bro.
Oh, man.
fucking
Absolute
weapon,
legend.
hey?
Yeah. I mean, he was just like an all-round amazing human
Yeah.
that I know from watching ski movies for a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of this like ski base was amazing. Like,
Yes, bro.
I don't think he
watched the
did
full
pioneer
videos.
that, but yeah,
I thought he did.
I think he said he did. Someone else. I think there's stuff
He's
in
got
like
the
old
credit.
James Bond movies where
Yeah, he
people
got
were
the
doing
credit
it.
for it though, right?
Yeah, he was taking it to the next level.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was watching his stuff and I was like, oh man, I want to ski off the cliff, you know?
Oh yeah, bro. Like
Yeah.
imagine that, just like
Yeah.
putting the two things together.
Well, I didn't grow up skiing, so I wasn't really that good. So even like big cliff drops and everything, I was still terrified of that because there's a fear of injury.
You got a parachute, you're sweet, right?
Yeah, got a parachute, and if the parachute doesn't work, I'll die. So whatever, you know, I don't care about
You're
death.
okay with it.
Yeah,
And
it's
I mean,
all or
at
nothing.
the end of the day, that became McConkey's demise also.
Well, that was just when I was learning to skydive. I think that was in January 2009.
Okay.
Yeah, he was doing the ski base wingsuit thing.
Yeah. Just add another thing in there.
Yeah, and I think was it the ski got caught up in the lines of the parachute or something.
I'm not too sure, but that
Yeah.
sounds like it definitely could have been what happened.
Well, that made me pull back from the idea of base jumping for a little while.
So you did do some base jumping?
I did do some base jumping. I did my first base jump when I had like 1,600 jumps though. So the minimum's 500, and that was the plan, and that's still what a lot of people do. But I was already a tandem instructor by the time I did my first base jump.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like it was fun, but it wasn't nothing like that bungee jump when I was a kid. So I got into it for a little while, and we're having this kind of like a conversation like this in a hot tub of all places. When I went on a road trip up in the north.
Originally, we were going to do this in an infrared, weren't we? We were like,
Yeah.
Can we do this in a sauna?
Sauna chats, yeah.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, something about the heat.
Like,
It gets you
cool
to
car chats, right?
Yeah.
Driving back from a party.
I was with some drop zone owners in the north of New Zealand, in Whangarei,
Yeah.
and one of them, well, they were both parents, and we were talking about this thing. I was going to go back to Europe and do more base jumping, and this chick goes, well, what if you die? And I was like, I don't really fear death. Like, if it comes, it comes. And then she goes, well, how would your mum feel about that? And I was like, oh, that'll be fine. And she was like, no, she wouldn't. And so that kind of sat with me, and it wasn't until like a little while later and a few more base jumps that I was like, and then watching other friends go-ins for people that don't know is our term for dying. Yeah. So yeah, it kind of sparked a little bit of a thing with that. And you're watching other people die and you realize that they're not affected by it. That's sweet. But seeing what it does to the people around them who don't have like a different perspective on death, you know?
I mean, like, base jumping is literally the most fucking deadly sport there is out there.
Yeah.
Quite literally. It kills more people than any other sport.
Yeah, there was a break of like, there's not many people worldwide that do it.
Yeah.
And I remember once we had a 2-week period where 16 people died, and some of them were very experienced.
Yeah.
The nail in the coffin for me was when my mentor died.
Oh, wow.
And he died. He was Mr. Safety, and so were the other 3 people that died on that same flight. Yeah, and that wasn't even technically base jumping. They had base jumping gear on, but they jumped out of a helicopter and misread the winds and didn't make their exit.
Wingsuit jump, or?
Wingsuit proximity jump, but
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that really kills a lot of people in the sport, isn't it? The proximity flying.
oh yeah, and like we're those types of people, right? Like you fly down a mountain, you want to get closer,
Oh, yeah.
and then it gets to the point like, well, you push this to me, like you got away with it a few times, but you keep doing that. It's
You
just
keep
a numbers
tapping on
game.
Devil's door, he's going to come fucking
Exactly.
answer in a second.
Yeah, and we've seen that in the last couple of years. And there's people now whose videos you watch and you're like, oh man, you don't want to say it, but
Yeah.
you're like, you keep doing this. It's just a numbers game.
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And then you got people like Doogs who been doing it years and years and years.
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of base jumps, but they're like ultra cautious.
Yeah.
And they have no problem with walking up a cliff,
And
doing
then come back down.
doing a 20-hour hike and jumping back, like walking back down. Yeah, they've seen enough. Can you imagine base jumping for 20 odd years? The amount of
People
death
you
that
would've
you've
seen,
seen in that, and again, it's seeing what it does to the people around them. That's what really hits you. And then I think for me, having a few injuries, I broke a few bones along that journey. And hospitals suck, bro.
Yeah, bro. The food's shit.
The food is terrible. The lighting's terrible. They're not conducive to healing whatsoever.
No, literally.
God,
Quite the
God,
opposite.
yeah, God bless the staff that work in there, and they're really good at fixing you.
Yeah.
Like the surgeries that I've had, I could be a cripple without those surgeries. But Yeah, the one thing I always say, when the health industry and the medical industry combined, it'd be a great day for humankind. Yeah.
Yeah, when that actually happens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
if we can have more natural lighting in the hospitals, if
Yeah.
we can have decent food.
Bit of grounding.
Yeah.
Bit of
Yeah,
grounding.
some grounding mats.
A rod out to the fucking earth would be fucking paramount.
Oh man, before I got right into this breathing stuff, I was in a hospital. Yeah, I was in a hospital. I think I'd broken my elbow.
Yeah.
And so you're in there with three
Just a
other
casual
people.
elbow break.
Just a casual elbow break. One of two. Same elbow. There was a guy snoring.
Yeah.
And they've got his bed tilted up. He's on his back. He's got all the pillows behind his neck. So it's all constricted in there, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, obviously you're not sleeping right, so you're not healing.
Yeah.
So me being me, I said to the nurse, oh, by the way, old mate's snoring over here. Maybe you want to like put his bed down a little bit or help him out. He's got a constricted airway. It can't be good. And the nurse's response was to me, would you like earplugs? And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I can't sleep anyway in this environment. Yeah, I'm like, no, this is for him. He's snoring. Do you want to help him out?
Yeah.
And she was like, earplugs? No, I'm fine. It's good.
Yeah, so obviously breathwork side of things, when did that come into your life and become such a big part of it? Because now you're running workshops, facilitating retreats, all that sort of stuff, and helping people to sort of, I guess, come into breathwork. Because it's such a, not so much anymore, but it really was for so long such a woo-woo thing. But now it's become a lot more mainstream, or at least trendy, because of, well, number one, the health benefits from it.
Yeah.
The way it makes people feel, but also because your favourite influencer on Instagram doing it, right?
Yeah, and I think one of the big catalysts was the James Nestor book that your flatmate's reading downstairs.
Yeah, breathe. I need to read that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And one of the things I really like about that book is that it's very broad. It talks about all the different kinds of breath work and breathing and the benefits of each. Because he's a reporter, so he's looking at it holistically. Whereas most books on breathing are from someone who's studied one particular modality, and so they look into that modality only.
I feel like with that as well, just with breath work, there's so many different little sects to it. You got like your hoffies and you got like your fucking holotropics and your fucking
Buteyko and yeah, and with the hoffies, they talk about the science quite a lot, but
and then go and fucking restrict breathing and jump in a pool.
Yeah, exactly. And like most Wim Hof instructors know not to do that.
Yeah.
It's just Wim Hof who's going around that, but a mate who did his Wim Hof training said that everyone at the Wim Hof training said that
this over in
this was in Poland. In Poland. And apparently it's quite commonly known that Wim Hof is the worst Wim Hof instructor.
It's like a running joke.
Yeah.
Yeah,
recently I saw on Instagram, I got a mate who's an influencer and he's posting a video of his mate doing the heavy breathing in the ice bath in his converted freezer. And I was like, bro, you don't want to be doing that in the ice. And he goes, I was just at a Wim Hof event in Sydney and he's telling everyone to do it. Meanwhile, I think he's under like a few lawsuits at the moment with people.
When we did that breathwork seminar.
Yeah. There's a really interesting podcast by Scott Carney on that if anyone wants to look into it further.
Cool. I might actually grab the link for that off you and we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Oh yeah, show notes, cool.
We love this shit. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do it properly.
I'm on a real podcast. Yeah. So there's a lot of different aspects of it. When I first really started to dive in, obviously we're all breathing every day of our lives. And when I broke my back in 2012, it was actually, I think the surgery for breaking my back was on the 12th of the 12th of the 12th. And a little bit before that, yoga had always been calling me, but I never kind of found the right place.
Right.
And my physio at the time was like, yoga would be really good for you, for your back, for this healing journey that you're on. And I was focused, like I had the rods in my back and I wanted to get back into skydiving ASAP.
All right. Yeah.
So with the rods in there.
Skydiver with an injury.
Yeah. And I wasn't on any kind of workers insurance. I'd done it after work. So I was not supported financially. I was just keen to get back into it.
How did you break your back?
Basically a paragliding accident, like in a small paraglider trying to what we call soaring, when the wind works like a wave up the side of a slope.
And you were trying to...
Yeah, and think of like if the wind's coming off water and it's hitting like up a sand dune or something, it creates this uplift.
Like what we got in the shed at Byron.
Yeah.
When we get northerlies.
That's more turbulence.
Yeah.
So this is just the wind's coming up and you can, those flow riders with the water and you can kind of surf this constant wave. It's like that, but with air instead of a surfboard. So you've got this small paraglider and you're turning down and you've got this constant source of lift and you can fly along the edge of it, and
That's fucking cool.
it's really cool. It's super fun.
So
And you don't have to pay for a plane or anything, right? You just got your cost of your paraglider. Yeah. Anyway, so we found this spot in Queenstown we thought would be good for it. And it wasn't. I since found out
I
that
was waiting for that.
all the paragliders know that it's turbulent as hell.
Yeah.
Not ideal. Yeah. So I struck some turbulence and stalled the wing like 6 meters off the ground and just came straight down because I'd broken my ankle a few years earlier, trying to protect my ankle. Kind of landed feet first, but then right onto my bum. The shock went up through my tailbone into my L2. And I had this, didn't know it at the time, but I had a very sharp piece of bone sitting against my spinal cord. So very lucky to be walking. Yeah. Yeah, they told me this after the surgery, about a minute before they told me to stand up and start walking. And I was like, are you serious?
Hectic.
Yeah. So I could walk straight away. That was really cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, doing laps around the ward with my little catheter bag. That was fun.
So you just like shaking that thing around the joint?
Yeah. Well, like walking around it was it was an interesting experience because, you know, I was probably still in that mindset. Sometimes you get stuck in the victim mode, even though it was 100% my fault. But then walking around and seeing other people with way worse injuries. It's the spinal unit.
So out of it real fucking quick.
Oh yeah, there was a woman there with one of the cages around her neck, and I was like, whoa, that.
Like
at least I'm not that.
skull and shit.
Yeah, like the cage is holding her on. It's just a full brace around her neck.
Yeah.
So through that journey went back to Queenstown where I was living at the time. Sister put me onto a really good physio. Physio put me onto the getting into yoga. Sure enough, at the gym that I was going to, there was yoga classes, and the main instructor was my acupuncturist, who was the first male yoga instructor that I'd come across. And he had a better idea and understanding of my body, and it was the first person that had offered props. So for me, sitting cross-legged is very uncomfortable. So he offered different options to make it more comfortable so I could sit up with my spine straight. And so during like the meditation parts, I was like, oh, meditation isn't supposed to be like torturous.
This feels good now.
Yeah, I can actually do this. And then I got more, and, you know, yoga was great. It actually, my back hurts less now after practicing yoga than it did before the break because my back's stronger and more flexible. Maybe not in that one medicine.
Right?
Yeah. Everything happens for a blessing if you take it with that right mindset.
100%.
Yeah, it's the mindset, right? We always say everything happens for a reason, but yeah, look for it and you'll find it.
Yeah, there's always a silver lining.
Yeah, the universe is conspiring to work for you.
Yeah,
it's whether you actually see it or not.
That's right, but that comes back to perspective, right?
Yeah.
Glass half full, glass half empty, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and so I got kind of down the yoga path. And then it's like, I think yoga for a lot of people, you start with the physical practice. Yeah. And then the more you learn about it, you learn that the physical practice is just one very small set. In fact, yoga asana is what the physical practice is called. And that basically translates to a comfortable seat for meditation. So it's to get the body ready for a comfortable meditation. So you can sit there comfortably, either with your legs crossed, but you know, I still don't find it comfortable having my legs crossed. So now I sit on my knees and use props and blocks and anywhere where I can get my spine straight.
Yep.
Even laying down is sometimes fine as well, as long as you're not going to fall asleep.
Yeah, that's where I actually guide a lot of people I work with to make sure they have a separate place for meditation and a separate place for sleeping.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you jump into bed to meditate, the first thing the body's going to go is like, well, it's time for sleep now. Let's do that. You got your eyes closed, bro. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Whereas if you're sitting up, if you unlikely do start to fall asleep, that fear of that, you know, sense of falling. Yeah. What is it? Inception. The thing of falling will always pull you out of a dream.
Yeah.
But there's yoga nidra as well, which I think is a great thing where you do that fully lying down.
It's deep rest.
Non-sleep deep rest.
Yeah. I've been doing a little bit of that lately.
That's
I've
amazing.
discovered it, bro. It's amazing.
That's my life hack.
Really?
Oh yeah, I do that. So if I've had it,
right, 10-15 minute yoga nidra.
Yeah, because sometimes you don't always nap, but this is far more effective. If I've had a big day skydiving and I'm feeling like, I don't know if I can handle going to the gym, I'll do a yoga nidra, wake up from it kind of sleepy and just get myself to the gym. Within 2 minutes, all my energy's back because your dopamine levels increase during it.
I've actually really experienced that in the last 2 weeks. Well, especially since like the new year. So I had a bit of a big night on New Year, but I got up at like 8 a.m. No, I got up like 6 and then ran 8Ks at 8 a.m. and felt incredible.
Yeah.
Felt incredible, bro. But then towards the end of the day, I started to notice I was crashing a little bit. And also then Tuesday, I was crashing a little bit. when I did like a 10-15 minute yoga nidra, and I was all ready to fly. Let's go. I'm creative. I'm feeling on.
Yeah, it is. Well, the non-sleep deep rest is you're not sleeping, but you get a lot of the benefits of sleeping. They say with a 20-minute yoga nidra, it's like equivalent to about 3 hours sleep as far as restoration of dopamine.
I need that in my life because my fucking 20-minute rests turn into 3-hour sleeps.
Yeah. Which is not ideal. Because then that impacts your sleep during the night, right?
Yeah, not only that, but it impacts the rest of my day. It's like, there's my fucking day wasted.
Yeah,
I don't do that. And now I've discovered yoga nidra. Literally, only in the last 2 weeks I've discovered it. So I'm actually really glad we're talking about it here.
Yeah. Well, anyone that wants my version of the non-sleep deep rest, feel free to reach out through my Instagram at Boundless Breathing. Send me your email and I'll send you my one. There's also a million on YouTube as well.
Yeah, I've been using the YouTube just as like a guided one, right?
I'll send you my favorite YouTube one too.
Please and thank you.
Yeah,
really
I took a lot of reference off this one.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah, and there's no ads. There's no ads on it too, which is great.
Even better.
Yeah.
I just pay for YouTube Premium, bro, so it's all good.
Oh yeah, sweet.
I've got a kid, remember?
I don't do that.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, it's the babysitter, bro. Mm-hmm. It's terrible.
Oh man, I had a babysitter as a TV when I was a kid. We've all had it. Yeah. I don't know where I was going with that. Non-sleep deep rest.
We're talking about breath work and obviously how you started with the yoga side of things after breaking your back.
Oh yeah, so how I got into breathing. That's right. I do go down little sidetracks.
I'm here for it, bro.
I love it.
So here for it.
Yeah. And then so through that, you notice I went down the meditation path for a while. Obviously got into psychedelics for a little bit too.
We're going to talk about that again soon as well.
Yeah. And you start to, I think I'm like you, where you start to see connections and things.
Yes.
And I was like, at one point,
aha moments.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, most of meditation, no matter any technique in meditation, because I think it's great to learn a bunch of techniques. I don't think there's any one best technique.
Context, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like having more tools in the toolbox.
Yep.
The best meditation technique is the one that works for you on that day.
Correct.
Yeah. So have a bunch and see whatever works. So I noticed that any technique was essentially a way of slowing the breath down. And obviously slowing the breath down is a way of down-regulating the nervous system. And then, we live in this beautiful information age. I was right into TED Talks at the time, saw a couple of TED Talks, and used a little bit of that with the people that I was indoor skydiving with. There was one off a TED Talk that I had this woman, and she'd come in once a week, and she was like, okay, she did 10 minutes a week, and we do 2-minute blocks. So she did 5 2-minute blocks. And she goes to me, for the first 2 minutes, I always just get in there, and it just takes me that 2 minutes to feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. And so you've been to the wind tunnel where you sit in like a staging area, and you wait your turn, you'll do your 2 minutes, and then you go out, and someone else flies their 2 minutes, and it just rotates around. So I said, cool, while you're waiting for your turn, just breathe like this. I said, just concentrate on your breathing, breathe like nice and smoothly and slowly, and maybe count 3 seconds in and 5 seconds out, in and out through the nose. And she was like, okay, I'll do that. Really receptive to it. She gets in there, and then she looks at me, and she was like, okay, she's like beckons me to start coaching her straight away. And she'd briefed me before not to, just to like stand back and just let her do the thing. And we get out of there, and she was like, I didn't need the 2 minutes. I was ready to go straight on. I wasn't overwhelmed. It brought me back down. Just grounded herself. Yeah. Where she used to waste like 2 minutes in the wind tunnel. That's, if you're paying it like skydiver time, the pro flyer time, that's still
like $20 or something like that.
Even more. Ooh, yeah. Well, 10 minutes is like, was about $200 at that time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think that, right. That's a bit more expensive down at the Sydney one. It's bigger. So I was like, okay, there's something here. And I'd already been down and learnt how effective it was for me. And then somewhere along the way, I think I was listening to like the Kyle Kingsbury podcast, and they had someone who was a breath coach on there. Actually, there was 2 different podcasts with 2 different breath coaches. And I was like, that's a thing. So I used to
teach motherfuckers to breathe and get paid to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I'm already doing that. I took it into the tandems, right? So actually I got some more tips off those podcasts. And so I took those into tandems and people, it's when Apple Watches first came out. So I was taking people on a tandem, and I'm like, let's look at your heart rate. So we look at it on takeoff, and, we'd get up a little bit higher, and then we'd strap people in, and you'd look at it again, and you'd see it had gone up even higher. So I started to play around with it. I'm like, let's just do this little bit of breathing. And I noticed like some common things, right? Like before they got on the plane, there was a little bit of anxiety and the heart rate was up. take off, it would go up a bit again, but then it would calm back down as they're looking out at the scenery and they were distracted. Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, look, Byron Bay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is a beautiful view down there.
Oh, it's fucking.
But then you start to strap them in and shit starts getting real. And you got the goggles on.
Yeah.
And then so you'd be like, let's have a look at your heart rate. You know, from 80 up to 120 sometimes. And it would go right up. So I just, before we even started putting the harness on, I'd be like, oh, how are you feeling? And I'd ask, but you're strapped to someone.
You feel them.
You feel them. And they can say, I'm fine. But we all know what FINE stands for, right? Freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. And I can feel it. And the more someone would say, like, I'm sweet as, I'm not scared, that's how you could tell that they were actually having a personal freak out.
A bit of ego going on.
Yeah.
Own it. Be
Yeah,
vulnerable.
and the body would go fully tense, and you're like, oh, yeah, you're right there. Yeah. Man, you learn so much about it. Like, I did about 5,000 tandem jumps, and you learn so much about how people...
By the way.
Somewhere around 8,000, I think. Yeah. I should complete my logbook, but enough. I got enough.
I've gotten slapped for that too. It's real bad.
Keep on top of it. It's pretty cool. The guys, I think someone hit over 20,000 the other day, and they knew on that jump. So it is good to keep up with it. I was just lazy for a few years.
Guys like Adriano that have like more fucking jumps than they've had hot dinners.
Yeah. I think he said today he's around 19,000.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah, that'd be at least double mine.
And Selwyn, like fucking just jumps.
Yeah, what does he say? Too many.
Yeah. I stopped counting a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
What accent that was, by the way.
Yeah. It wasn't South African. Probably more African.
Put me in the bin.
And yeah, anyway, so with people with the smartwatches, I used to like have a look. And then, you know, during that part where it was time to jump, and even the door of the plane opening when it would usually go up,
That's when shit gets real for people, right?
shit was getting real,
Yeah.
but their heart rate was lower than when we took off.
Yeah, wow.
Just through a few simple breathing exercises. Most people loved this, and I used to ask for the people that were terrified, you know, and you might say like, oh, if you're terrified, why would you go? Well, sometimes your mates stitch you up and buy it for your birthday and drag you along.
Or your son.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get that fucking inheritance quicker.
Yeah, or you come with a group of mates, or people come terrified, or sometimes it's a personal thing that they want to move through, and I have a lot of
That's the
respect for
beautiful thing
those.
for it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe talk a little bit about that in a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
But I used to ask the girls at the front if there's anyone like that, give them to me, and because I want to help them through it.
I love that, man.
And so I used to like help them through it, and you know, see their heart rate go down. And the really cool thing with it was that you'd see someone who didn't think they could do it, and they did it. And I'd have this thing that I just said it one day, it just came out, but I repeated it many, many times. You know, they'd land and, you know, they'd be so stoked. They got this massive rush of adrenaline. Yeah, serotonin, dopamine, it's all going, and they're just high on life. And I'd say, you didn't think you could do that, did you? And they go, nah. And I'd be like, and you did do it? And they go, yeah. And I was like, well, here's your homework. Go and think of all the things you don't think you can do that you probabably actually can, and write a list and go knock them off. Fuck your bucket list. Yeah. That's your new list. Yeah. And some people it would go
shit up list.
Yeah. Some people it was 747 and go right over top of their head.
Yeah.
But some people you could literally see the cogs moving around in their brains.
Something changes.
Yeah.
Something shifts.
Yep.
That was the experience I had. We'll go into that in a second. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I really wanted to, because you don't want to do tandem skydiving when you're 60 years old. So I was already like looking for a way out of tandem skydiving. And I realized that I never got to see that, you know, that development in someone, you know, what effect did that have in their life? So I was like, you know, came back to the breath coaching thing from the podcast. I actually want to have regular people who I can hear back from, who even if it's like, for some of the courses that I have now, when someone sends me a private message and they're like, oh, this happened, and it was all because I found myself in a situation and I could breathe like this and it got me through it, or just I had a little shift in my mindset, that stuff charges me up. That's worth more than
yes.
any of the money that I make from this stuff.
Fuck yes, bro.
I have to make money out of it because I want to do it as much as I can. And
Yeah, we got to pay bills and shit.
we got to pay bills.
Yeah.
Yep.
And want to keep skydiving as well.
Exactly. And it's an expensive hobby.
Jump tickets aren't cheap.
Oh, there's heaps of stuff I want to keep doing.
That's the only reason I take people down there is to get my free jump tickets. Nah, I'm joking. I love taking people, but yeah.
Oh, that's why I'm still working there so that I can get my staff rate.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah. And because I like the coaching with it as well. I'm probably doing more coaching. Like we've done some coaching and it's been cool to see your progression with it as well.
Yeah.
And a few of the other boys.
I'm so hungry for it, bro.
Yeah.
So fucking hungry for it is the best.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the breathwork side of things for you was your way of being able to have that long-term relationship with people and watch them grow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Love it, man.
Yeah.
Love it.
And it was just something I found really interesting.
Yeah.
You know, you hear this follow your bliss thing.
Yeah.
And it can seem very conceptual at times, but when you actually do it, it's pretty cool. So, and I was very fortunate in a way. I was reading, you've probably heard of Joe Dispenza before. You probably read his book.
Yeah.
I was reading.
How to Be Yourself, great book.
Yeah.
Great
A
book.
mate's reading that right now and he's doing all the meditations and everything that come
The girl
with
I'm
it.
seeing at the moment, she just picked it up and started reading it. She's fucking frothing it.
So I was reading Becoming Supernatural. And there's a section, I was obsessed with it. I think I'd just come back from Canada from a trip over there for a festival and some skydiving. And I was living in my van at the time. I just moved out of a living situation where I was going into my next house. I wanted to be very fussy about who I lived with, so I was taking my time.
I hear that.
So I was living in my van because it was my own space at least. And I was listening to this thing on Audible. And if there was a chapter that I wanted to repeat, I just rewind and listen to it again. All the anecdotal stuff I just listened to once, but the important, the nuts and bolts part of that book, I would rewind and listen to it again. Probably read it 4 times before I reached the end of the book.
Yeah.
And there's a section in it where he's talking about his son who goes on this trip to New Zealand on a surfing trip and realizes that he doesn't want to, do his old corporate job anymore, that he wants to surf more and how can he work and earn more money but still surf a lot more. And so Joe gives them these meditations and he asks them certain questions and, what do you want? And put out the things that you want and the universe will essentially conspire to make it happen. So I start doing this religiously. I'm at the beach at sunrise every day. I'm doing the meditations. I'm very clear on what I want. And what I wanted was to somehow get into teaching breathing more, but still earn, I didn't want to take the pay cut away from skydiving in order to do that. I still wanted to be able to pay my bills. And he warns that you get to choose what you want, but sometimes not how it comes.
Yeah.
So
That's the thing. You how you expect things to come, it doesn't generally happen like that.
yeah. Yeah.
So you gotta let go of the expectation and just be patient, right?
Well, this is how it happened. One day we were jumping at work, calm day, light northeasterly all day, which is a really steady wind. Hadn't been a problem. We're reaching the end of the day where usually the wind dies down more. On this day, the southerly had kind of started to pick up. And where we were jumping out, if a southerly picked up, it was going to make it very hard to get back. So we jumped out and the wind had picked up so much and so fast that the guys on the ground couldn't radio us to tell us. And so I was out doing my thing, had this young backpacker on the front of me and we're doing twists and turns and then we start heading towards the landing area and I hit this brick wall of wind and I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm we're still kind of moving forward. Yeah, almost like an elevator. And I'm I think we can make it back. We get down and the wind just gets stronger and stronger. And there was so out of the blue that there was someone on a B license, so less than 50 jumps, who's down below me and he's landing off. And I'm oh, check out this guy, he's going to land off. And I'm we're all good though. And I got, I know, right?
A vote of confidence for yourself, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so we got this big paddock where they had the Blues Fest in behind me. That's where I could have gone. And then a whole bunch of trees and then the landing area.
Yeah.
And then as we get lower, I'm well, now it's too late to land at the Blues Fest. But I've got this little patch of grass that I think I can land on. And then as I get closer, I have to I'm going to slightly overshoot that. So I do a little maneuver to turn away and then turn back into it to land on this grass. And as I do this little turn, it just takes me. And all of a sudden, I'm just committed to flying down the road. The trees are coming over the road on one side.
This is with a tandem passenger.
This is with a tandem passenger and power lines in the car park on the other side and a crosswind. So I'm honking down this road.
Fuck,
So
bro.
chilling the whole time, like, it's okay, whatever. And then just before we land, I'm like, hold on, this isn't going to be good. And so I've got her to have her legs up at this stage.
Yeah.
And consciously, I'm thinking this is going to be a hard landing. I've got to take it with my legs.
Yeah.
Because when I broke my back, I
course.
didn't take it with my legs. I
Yeah.
took it with my spine. So our parachute gets...
absorb so much shock, eh?
Yeah, you got these things. And we're always taught with tandems, like if it comes down to you or them, put your body on the line for them. That's what we're here for. So part of the parachute gets wrapped up in the tree and I grab a branch and it's all a bit of a blur, but we kind of land with a half inflated canopy. Apparently I still managed to flare somewhat and landed on my feet and we kind of did like a roll and she was luckily fine. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think I just fluked it, but she was fine. She had a couple of cuts and scrapes.
Yeah, wow.
I had a severely broken tibia
Yeah.
and a broken heel on the other side.
Ooh.
And so this is again a long story short. Or no, this is a short story long maybe. On the ambulance on the way up, I was like, oh, I did this at work. I'm going to be on work cover for the next little while. I'm going to get paid with a lot of time to learn as much about breathing as I possibly can.
Fuck yeah.
So I took it.
Fuck yeah, man. Took the opportunity with both hands.
Yeah, exactly. So I just spent a lot of time on YouTube at the start because that was accessible to me. And then on Facebook, a guy, Jason Rice on the Gold Coast, was doing these surf apnea instructor courses. He still is. They're great courses. He teaches like cold water immersion as well. And what else is he teaching? Yeah, and just general like breathing for health, oxygen advantage, which is another great modality within the breathing world, which is kind of the sports version of Buteyko breathing, which is very slow under breathing, carbon dioxide tolerance. Jason was just a wealth of knowledge. And I turned up to that course thinking, because every other break that I've had, I've done each ankle a couple of times. And 6 weeks, I'm out of the cast, I'm walking around.
Yep.
So this time I was like 6 weeks, I'll be out of the cast, I'll be walking around. Because I didn't really, when the doctors tell you like, oh, that's a nasty break.
Fuckwit.
Like, whatever, mate. Like, heard that before.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm still in 2 moon boots at the start of this course. And I'm like, Jason, this is the situation. I thought I'd be more healed. Can I come anyway? I'm still on crutches. I'd migrated from the wheelchair at least.
Amazing.
And I'd been going to the pool for a little while before. So the pool was my savior, man. Like I was like, I call myself a seal because I was like crawling around on the ground to get into the water. Yeah. And then in the water, just free as a bird. Yeah, cutting laps. Yeah, moon man. And anyway, so started the course, did this course with, still in moon boots. Was literally taking the moon boots off and getting in the pool for the pool sections of it. But just saw Jason as this guy who knew so much about breathing. And he's not esoteric at all. And a lot of the trainings that I'd looked for before that, they just didn't kind of resonate. There was the rebirthing breath work, which I think can be amazing, but it was this very expensive, lengthy training. And it just didn't resonate with me. I went and did a one-on-one with the person who was teaching it to see if it would be something I was interested in. Yeah. And she was like, some people have experiences like ayahuasca when they do this. You know, you don't need ayahuasca. I'm like, okay, let's try it out. I've done a few ayahuasca ceremonies and it was nothing like that. I was just breathing for a little while, and I've since tried some of the other ones, like more holotropic style breathing. And I was into Wim Hof at the time. And that was a really good way of shutting down the brain. And I really liked the Wim Hof because it was getting me close to that point of what it was like when I died.
Okay, we're going to go there for a second. So first of all, can we talk about a couple of different modalities that you know a little bit about when it comes to breath work? Because obviously, like I said, there's so many. And even myself, this is not for everyone else. This is for me as well. Yeah, so can we talk, what are the different modalities of breath work that you would, I guess, be educated enough to talk about?
Okay, so we can let's split it into 2. Okay. So there would be like a hyperventilating or overbreathing, hyperventilating or hypoventilating, so almost underbreathing.
With that, it's like upregulate, downregulate, right?
Almost, exactly. Yeah. And we could look at it as like
by the nervous system.
Yeah, and one hyperventilating is dumping CO2 because we breathe in oxygen, we breathe out carbon dioxide through the metabolic process. And hypoventilation, we're building up levels of carbon dioxide in our blood. So I think it's important to understand a process called the Bohr effect.
Okay.
So the Bohr effect basically tells us that with higher levels of carbon dioxide, and this is a very simplified version of it, but it's the way that makes sense to me. So it's the way that I talk about it.
I'm a
Same end
simple
result.
human. I'm a
Yeah.
simple human, bro.
Yeah.
Help me with this shit. I love
I'll
it.
get to an analogy that I've come up with in a second. But we breathe in oxygen that's carried around by the protein in our blood called hemoglobin. And even finer on that, there's 4 iron receptors per hemoglobin, unless you have a genetic disorder like thalassemia or sickle cell, where they only have 2 iron receptors. So the oxygen binds onto those iron receptors and then is transported around the body. The oxygen gets released from the blood into the cell, and then in the cell it reacts with the glucose from the food that we eat, and there's this amazing chemical process that is understood by scientists, but from what I understand, there's still some mystery around it.
It's not confirmed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it forms ATP, which we call energy, and the byproduct of that is carbon dioxide, which is diffused back into the blood. There's another chemical process, and then it transports around our body and turns back into carbon dioxide, and we breathe that out. Yeah.
So
So
every breath we're taking in oxygen and breathing out carbon dioxide.
exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you would maybe think that if I were to breathe more, then I get more oxygen and I get rid of more carbon dioxide.
Right.
But we're only producing enough carbon dioxide for our, at that metabolic rate. So, and we need
With metabolic rate in this case, that's down to the person.
down to the person or the activity.
Right.
Sleeping, low metabolic rate. High intensity cardio, high metabolic rate.
Yeah.
So sleeping, meditating, you might breathe as low as 2 breaths per minute, maybe in a really deep meditation. Try and do 2 breaths per minute when you're doing a high intensity training.
All
harder.
breaths per minute, bro, when I'm doing high intensity.
Exactly,
training.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, you want to breathe to your metabolic rate in a way. So the Bohr effect kind of tells us that if we overbreathe, that it changes the structure of your hemoglobin. And so that means that your hemoglobin has a higher affinity for oxygen. So it changes the structure where it binds onto the oxygen more and without that carbon dioxide. And so it doesn't get released into your cells. Does that make sense? You with me? So my analogy for this is, the old steam engines where there's the coal room and there's the guy shoveling coal into the fire. And then the coal goes onto the fire, reacts with the fire or builds the fire, creates steam and energy for the train. So the guy in the coal room shoveling the coal into the fire, let's think of him like carbon dioxide.
Right.
He's helping offload the oxygen into the cells where it gets used for energy. So, and your blood, think of it like the room with the coal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's
So,
carrying everything. Yeah.
So if we're over breathing and we're dumping carbon dioxide, then there's no guy. The coal's just sitting in the coal room. The oxygen is just sitting in the blood, but without getting released.
Yeah.
So this is why if anyone's tried Wim Hof breathing or even any kind of hyperventilating, you start to feel dizzy after a while. If anyone's tried one of the holotropic breathing, you might even feel like your hands cramping up. You feel
hands, right?
tetany they call it. And there's all sorts of spiritual reasons for it, but there's a chemical process that's going on essentially at the end of the day. And you go to these things and they're like, oh, it's an energetic thing. Well, essentially everything is energy, right? If you look down to it at a particle level.
Microphone in front of us is energy.
Everything's energy, yeah.
Legit.
Yeah. But taking back from that, there's just molecules that aren't happening at play. And the tetany's from a more complicated thing that I won't bother going into now. But the lightheadedness is literally your brain getting starved of oxygen.
Yeah.
So what are the parts of your brain that use a lot of oxygen? Well, your thinking part of your brain.
Yeah.
The one that kind of often doesn't serve us, And so the subconscious part of our brain, that uses less oxygen.
Right.
So when we do
run autonomously and obviously have these bad habits that we continue to do.
sometimes, yeah, but that's also where trauma's stored in the
Right.
subconscious brain.
Okay,
So that's why when we talk about like a trauma trigger, that's the trigger is something that's bringing up the memory in the subconscious brain of a trauma that happened to us at one stage of our life.
So this is probably why people have these crazy releases when they do breathwork, because it shuts down the conscious mind, right? It's shutting down the thinking brain and then allowing them to feel.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So it's not for everyone again, though, right? For some people, it can be re-traumatizing.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you don't have the mindset skills, like someone like you who's done a lot of personal work is going to go into that and be like, you know that you got to feel to heal. Feel it to heal.
Bring it on.
Yeah. So, especially with the hyperventilating, it's putting into sympathetic drive or like the fight and flight somewhat as well.
Yes.
So you're bringing on that state plus accessing the subconscious brain. And so it's bringing on this like intense experience. And so you go to these big breathwork things, and sometimes there's 100 people in the room, and you'll hear screaming and groaning, and it's like an ayahuasca ceremony,
Yeah.
And people talk about these huge cathartic releases. You'll see people shaking and I've had that. The shaking is one of the things that I get. That's a beautiful somatic thing to happen.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who's maybe had a lot of trauma, but haven't really gone down that path of being comfortable with feeling your emotions,
Well, allowing it, right?
allowing it, and you're still trying to suppress that somewhat, then it can be very uncomfortable, and that experience in itself may re-traumatize. So like err on the side of caution. And it does this very similar thing as psychedelics. So when you take magic mushrooms, that does the same thing. It shuts down your prefrontal cortex somewhat, and you access the subconscious part of your brain.
I never knew that about psychedelics because I know that for a fact, anything you need to deal with will fucking be put right in front of you.
Oh yeah, and that's the definition of a bad trip is when you don't want to deal with it. When you start shutting it down, and you're not ready yet, and it's just like, motherfucker, like you asked me to help you, here I am. This is why maybe unless you're experienced with this stuff, you don't do it. Take like 20 magic mushroom caps and go to a festival. It's not the time and the place.
Definitely not.
I had a friend who had a bad acid trip, but he'd gone to time out on Coolangatta. I was like,
there's fucking heaps of kids running around.
Yeah, it'd be terrible.
Fucking those kids would end up in the fucking throw hoop where you're fucking trying to dunk the basketball.
Yeah,
100%.
exactly. Yeah. There's a cool video I saw years ago of someone, they put a person on ayahuasca in a MRI. And they could see it was activating a part of their brain where long-term memories are stored. Yeah, and that's exactly what it's like. You go back to like times in your life, and it's just accessing part of your brain, and it's showing you like might be like ways that you've been living that weren't in alignment with your better self. Might show you, bring up things that and help you like release things in a sense as well. But you've got to be prepared to go there.
So just quickly, this was with the holotropic and I guess hyperventilation breathing, which was hyper or hypo?
Hyper, over breathing, breathing beyond your metabolic needs so that you're dumping carbon dioxide and essentially starving yourself of oxygen somewhat.
And just to clarify as well, you said this is to go into more of a sympathetic fight or flight response.
You will be in a sympathetic fight or flight as well.
It's upregulating, Yeah, cool. So then let's talk about, I guess, hypoventilation, which would be downregulating and calming the nervous system,
Yeah.
So it's stuff that you would have been using when you were helping people in the skydiving.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. And some of the modality names that you might see around that are the Buteyko method.
Buteyko,
so he was a Ukrainian doctor years and years ago. I think it was around the 30s, if my memory serves me correctly, but feel free to research him yourself. And he was a fixer. He was a mechanic at first during the war. And so he was really like had that brain of looking at things from a different angle. And then I think he was a mechanic in the war. And then this was just around like, all the world wars. So there was another war. And then he started to look at humans as like a machine. So he went to med school and he makes connections, and you and me are like this as well, where we start to connect dots with things. So the dots that he connected were that the very sick people in the hospital were breathing through their mouth, which makes them, the nose slows down the breath so much. The nose is an amazing breathing apparatus. There's so many, like, you'll see on Instagram these days, they're posting all these different like breathing things. There's this airway tool the mouth tape can be a good thing if you do it properly. I wouldn't recommend the mouth tapes that cover your whole mouth. I've got a video on how to mouth tape properly on my one. You need just the center of the lips. You actually want to be able to breathe.
Wrap your whole head.
No.
I got charged for that one actually. Didn't happen, I swear.
Jail for
It was
how long?
consensual. Not my kink. But we don't kink shame here, okay?
No.
God,
Yeah, everything as long as consent, as long as you can say pineapple, or you can have a sign that says it.
Blink 3
Yeah,
times.
yeah. So yeah, he noticed that people who were breathing heavily in and out through their mouth were sick, and so he started training them to breathe slower and in and out through their nose and regulate the breath more, and he started seeing huge benefits. So physically as well as mentally, because when we overbreathe, we're dumping the carbon dioxide, so the oxygen isn't getting released as easily, but we're obviously still getting some oxygen. So there's a buffering system in our bodies that will still manage to like keep our alkalinity, our blood alkalinity, in a way that will still let off some oxygen into the body to keep us alive, but it's very draining on the body. So, it affects us in all sorts of other different aspects of health. For people with asthma, this is a huge thing as well.
Right.
Because when you start to get an asthma attack, what do? You go to your mouth.
Yeah. Start hyperventilating.
Yep. What does that do? It dries out the mouth.
Yeah.
You're dumping carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide's a vasodilator. So if you take over and breathe through the nose and start to build up levels of carbon dioxide, for most people with the correct training, it completely dissipates the asthma attack altogether. Yeah, so people who learn Buteyko, with a good chunk of them who give it a good crack, they completely get off their inhalers.
I love that.
Yeah. So if you look up on Wikipedia or something about Buteyko breathing, they'll tell you that it's unproven and that it doesn't cure asthma. Okay, it doesn't cure the underlying asthma.
Yeah.
But if you can never touch on, if you could completely get rid of the symptoms of cancer, but still have essentially some sort of cancer in your body,
Cells, right? Yeah.
then cancer is not a problem. So you wouldn't call it a cure, but it would be a good solution.
Yeah. Fucking oath.
And asthma inhalers are really bad for you long term.
Yeah.
Not as bad as having an asthma attack and dying and asphyxiating from it.
Yeah.
But long-term use of them isn't great. So if you can find a natural cause, it's great. So most people who get into the Buteyko method are asthmatics.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, it's just general health. But the Buteyko method is also used for mindfulness. And when you start to get into the Buteyko method, and then you start going back to yoga and meditation classes, you start to connect the dots and see that the two are interlinked. So the yogis, they had a completely different language, not just Sanskrit, but if you translate Sanskrit, it was a very spiritual language. But they considered themselves as scientists, and all the yogi pranayama, 99% of it is to aid the body in breathing day to day. So most of it's to slow the breathing down. There's some like breath of fire where you're using like a pump in your diaphragm to.
Yeah.
That's a really good exercise for establishing and creating a strong diaphragm as well. So again, you don't want to breathe like all the time, but it strengthens the diaphragm.
To work those muscles.
And then that helps you breathe slower when you're outside of the exercise. There's another one, Nadi Shodhana, which is alternate nostril breathing.
Yeah.
So that they always said that it balances the brain hemispheres. It turns out that under a brain scanner it does. What does it do as well? It slows the breath down.
Yeah.
So you can, when you're breathing slowly and you feel a slight urge to breathe a little bit more, that's not a lowering in oxygen, that's an increase in carbon dioxide.
I remember going through this with your retreat.
Yeah. And so we all have a different tolerance of carbon dioxide, partly genetics, but mostly on how our breathing is day to day.
Yeah.
And maybe we're living in more of a sympathetic response. We're in this fight or flight more of the time.
Look at where we're living, right?
Exactly. There's so much around,
Hyperstimulation as well.
Hyperstimulation. We were never meant to be bombarded with the news like we are now. We're only supposed to find out what the neighbors maximum 50k away were doing.
Yeah. What's happening in our world?
In our tribe.
Yes.
Yeah. We weren't supposed to be knowing about bombings in Gaza and wars in Iraq and all this stuff. It's great that we have awareness of that these days, but we've got to have these tools of down regulation to be able to handle that.
Yes.
So, with the anxiety comes the hyperventilating
Yeah.
beyond our metabolic needs unconsciously, subconsciously, right? Because our body's getting prepared to kind of fight this saber-toothed tiger. So it's getting ready to run. I always use a saber-toothed tiger.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just the go-to.
It's the go-to.
Yeah.
And so it's getting ready to either fight or flight.
Yeah.
So the fight is to fight it. So I'm going to need to breathe more because my metabolic needs have gone up.
Yeah. You want to increase your calorie consumption.
Or
so
to run away.
Yeah.
So when my metabolic needs increase, my breath rate increases and my heart rate increases. The other one is freezing. That's the freeze response. So if you ever catch yourself like not breathing on the day, yeah. So that's actually a sympathetic response.
Yeah.
So
You're
they
sitting on the toilet pushing one out.
maybe that's okay.
No, but I know what you're saying. Like even sometimes I'm driving along thinking, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh fuck, I just stopped breathing for it. Just do it again.
The term even screen apnea, when you're on reading an email or on your phone checking Instagram.
In like just in-depth focus.
Yeah, and you'd be holding your breath. But that might even come from like, in our hunting days, we might not a fully freeze, but like we're in, stress can be a good thing. I really like reframing stress.
Shaking and
Yeah. Well, like there's different levels of stress. There's stress where it's kind of not welcome. And then sometimes when we don't want it to come on and we're not actually moving our body in a way, this is kind of an anxiety attack. And the more we don't want it, the more it comes.
acute stress in any kind is actually good for us.
Yeah, when it's short-term stress, acute stress, right? Yeah, so the gym is really good. Even like, work can be both chronic stress and acute stress. If you're constantly stressed at work, this is obviously really bad. But those days at work where you're just stressed enough just to get shit done.
Yeah, it's like you got a little fire under your ass.
You're in the
man,
flow, yeah.
The flow state, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and flow state, there's an equation for it from Becoming Superhuman, I think is the book.
Becoming superhuman.
Yeah, Stephen Kotler, his work.
Okay, yeah.
So he said that when you're about 4% above your comfort zone, you're in flow state. He gave it like an equation, right? And what's 4%?
That
But
makes me
it's-
feel a little fucking more crazy because,
Yeah.
like, skydiving or base jumping, that's usually, like, for a lot of people, the best way to reach flow state.
Yeah.
But that means they're only 4% uncomfortable.
Yeah, because
Here I
they've
was thinking I was
graduated.
fucking getting really uncomfortable all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, but like even look with skydiving, we're always trying to push the limits.
Yeah.
When you're doing your F, you're way above the 4%.
Yeah.
So you're underperforming somewhat. And then you start like doing more and you get more and more comfortable. And, I'll still do skydives, some of the hectic ones where it's a big plan and I might be above my skill level and I'm more than the 4% and I might underperform because of that. But there's the jumps where I'm like not understimulated, I'm not bored, but I'm not overstimulated. I'm just in the sweet spot. Whatever the 4% is, it's probably a bit more than 4%.
Yeah.
But you hit that sweet spot and you're just in the zone. Time slows down. We've all had it.
Legit.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Stephen Kotler, he studied this with extreme sports athletes, people like Travis Rice, snowboarders, and becoming superhuman, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Because that's the Joe
The
Dispenza-
Rise of Superman.
The Rise of Superman.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy that one.
Yeah. There's a really good abbreviation of it on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like a 20-minute version.
Yeah, sick.
That's what I read, and I showed that to people who read the book, and they said, "Yeah, it's actually
sums it up.
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much sums it
Yeah.
up." So, yeah, stress is not necessarily a bad thing, but the more tools we have to regulate it, anxiety, we could probably call that not such a good thing because it's out of control. And breath is an amazing tool and regulator, and there's not one breath that works. I've got this amazing machine from the Heart Math Institute where you can see your heart rate variability.
When you're in the
ice bath,
man.
yeah.
Put it on your ear.
Yeah, and even in the ice bath, I was hoping I could really regulate my heart rate variability, but it's still pretty full on. But I did, my heart rate did go right down. But when you get this, your breath affects your heart rate variability, and your mind affects your heart rate variability, and your heart rate variability affects your mind. It's kind of this intertwined loop, this feedback loop, right?
Yeah.
So when you're in a really good heart rate variability, where on the inhale your heart rate goes up, and on the exhale your heart rate goes
a
back
nice
down,
flowing line.
yeah, and it looks like a sine wave kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Then it's proven that you're in a better mental state or more of a parasympathetic state. You make better decisions, and you can still be somewhat stressed. And I use the word stress like in slightly more of a peak state,
Yeah.
while still in this good, what we call a coherent state.
And this is mind-heart coherence, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so if you want to look into more of this is like the Heart Math Institute do a lot on this. Joe Dispenza got it off the Heart Math Institute.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
Yep. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming out about it now. It's getting more and more linked. And the Heart Math Institute, they talk how there's more electrical signals going from the heart to the brain, the brain to the heart.
Yeah.
But the brain can control the breath, and the breath can help regulate the heart rate. Yeah. Well, the dogs are going off out there. Yeah, Dave's owning your pit bull.
Yeah, she's a little bit, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah, he owns them all. Proud of that boy.
Takes after his daddy.
And yeah, so the breath is just this amazing way of controlling your mind essentially, and just tuning in with yourself. And the cool thing about it is that it will show you who you are in a way. And going a little bit more spiritual with this, when you become more aware of your breath on a day-to-day basis, you become more aware of everything. You become more, and especially become more aware of your thoughts.
Well, it becomes more of a mindfulness practice then, doesn't it?
100%,
A very quick way to, I guess, have that bit of mindfulness for the day is being aware of your breath.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then it's called, like, essentially, what's the purpose of mindfulness?
To be present.
To be present.
To be aware.
To be aware. And to me, it's to discover your true self.
I like that.
Getting back to the death experience here now, we're kind of coming on a bit of a loop. So, who's Ben? Who's the guy that's sitting in front of me now? If I ask you that question, how's
It's a hard one to answer, right?
Yeah.
It's like finding your purpose or understanding your why, right?
Kind of. Let's go a little bit deeper.
Okay.
So you might say, like,
Just quickly, most people would say, okay, I'm Ben, I'm a personal development coach, I'm a father, I do this, I do that, but they name the stuff. They don't actually answer
name the
with
stuff.
who they are.
Cool. And so we'll start with like your name. So when you were born, maybe your parents didn't have a name for you.
Yeah.
Were you still you?
I'm still me.
Yep. And if you were to change your name, you'd still be you,
I'd still
right?
be me.
Cool. Okay. So then we could go, well, I'm this body. Okay. Well, what if we cut your arm off? Would you still be you?
Yes.
If we cut both your legs off, would you still be you?
Probably Bob then.
If you went swimming, yeah. Okay. So then we go back to like the old philosophy, I think, therefore I am.
Right.
Now in a meditation, you at least maybe get like a good like 5-second stretch where you're not thinking. That's a pretty well practiced meditator getting 5 seconds in a row. Yeah. So you're in that state of bliss. Are you still you because you're not thinking?
Yeah.
Cool. So maybe would it make sense that you are you is the awareness behind your thoughts, is that state of bliss, that awareness of everything. So like getting into mindfulness is getting out of like your head and out into the open world. So mindfulness, I break down into first breathing and then looking. So looking around, looking in your presence, because if you're looking at something, you're not often thinking. And then listening around. We can be listening in conversation, what you're doing now, being fully absorbed without thinking about what you're going to say.
Yeah.
We all do it, right?
Yeah.
That's a practice in itself. We don't get taught to listen enough. But
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then, oh, that's such a good one. I love that one. I catch myself in it all the time and I'm like, no, listen to what this fucker's saying.
Yes, bro.
Yeah.
Yes.
And breathe while I'm listening as well. And then, so breathing, looking, listening, feeling the sensations of your skin. This is at the premise of Vipassana meditation, which is, I highly recommend that for anyone who wants to get a really good foundation in breathing. In meditation. It's a 10-day retreat that's run by donation.
Yeah.
So there's no ego to it. There's no, it's most people donate if you can. When I did it, I actually had very little money. So it wasn't until I started working later on that I went back and did another short one and gave a lot more money to it. But that's all about like feeling the slightest sensation all over your body. 10 days of silence and just feeling.
Yeah, I did a mini like 4-day.
Yeah.
And that was hard in itself.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's challenging. You start to notice in the room.
You said, a lot of, you notice people dropping off, right?
And you got to feel it, because when you feel your external body, you learn how to feel your internal emotions. And that's the hard one for people. That's a hard one for people when they first start meditating and start being more mindful. Because you're just distractions, you can distract your way through life. Like I was with the way that I was skydiving and doing all these adventure sports, it was just a distraction. For some people it's going to the gym, we both love going to the gym and being active, but it's like the intention that you're doing. Are you doing it just for the distraction, or are you doing it because I want to like be the best, healthiest version of myself, or this body that I'm living in, the body that my awareness, the true me is living in. Yeah. If God lives in church, I'm going to look after the church. I think that
If I live in me,
exactly.
I want to be the best version of me.
And in my opinion, God is living in you, because that awareness, this is God, right? When I died, I was just that pure awareness.
Yeah.
And I was just in a place. I wasn't thinking, where am I? What is this? These colors are pretty. I was just there. So it's part way onto a psychedelic journey. If you ever meditated on psychedelics, you get these sections where you're not thinking, and then the colors and the patterns start come up.
Just wild, hey.
I call it no thought land.
It's fucking
And
cool,
then a
hey.
thought comes into your head, and for me, sometimes it goes all staticky. It starts to go, and I'm like, oh, okay, go back, concentrate, and then just like concentrate on the breath. And so there's feeling, and then my last one with the principles of mindfulness is movement. So mindful movement, and this can be like a yoga practice, but it can also be gym as well. But just or going for a walk with your friend, or at the beach by yourself, or through nature. And you can be combining all of these at the same time. You can be looking, feeling, moving, and man, just being like more present in the motion and in the moment. Doesn't matter where you are. You can be out, and obviously nature's beautiful for it, but being even in Circular Quay in Sydney, where there's so much stimulus and so much happening, and just being like, wow. We often don't think of ourselves as nature, but human beings are nature. The cities that we've built,
nature, right?
yeah, but the cities we've built, that's still nature. The cities we've built are just nature, like termite mound is nature as well. It's all part of the same thing. Sometimes just as destructive as termite mounds, but it depends on the context and where they are, right?
Yeah.
So it all, for me, the whole process of what I'm doing now is to find that state of bliss and of pure awareness that I found when I was dead, and I'm really lucky that I can draw upon that, but bring it into everyday life. So I kind of did have that almost death wish when I was skydiving and doing adventure sport at the start, ski mountaineering, and running these big ski lines with the risk of avalanche.
Yeah.
So I was doing it like,
avalanches?
I just thought I had a free ticket through life, I was like, because I'm adopted as well. So I created this story, as we all create stories, I was an accidental birth. My sisters used to jokingly call me a drunk fuck.
Anyway.
I'm not meant to be here anyway. So let's just like run it, have a good time. Let's party. Let's go do like all the things that normal people don't do. Go ski big mountain lines. And if I die, then whatever. And I had this thing in my head that I only lived to 32. And then I got to 32, and an ex-girlfriend of mine, she'd had a skydiving accident, a serious one. And I'm sitting at the hospital with a friend of mine who he'd been base jumping and kind of living a very similar life for a while too. And I was like, bro, did you ever think you'd make it to this age? And he goes, nah. And he goes, did you? And I said, nah. And I was like, now that we're here, do you want to keep running it? And he was like, yeah. So there was like this switch for us, and we've both like started taking way more care of ourselves, started living a more conscious life. He's now a counselor. I'm doing this stuff.
That's sick, dude.
Yeah.
I had a similar conversation with Jeff Weatherall when he came on the potty, bro. He was like, oh, I'm only going to make it to like 21. Then he got to like 21. He's like, oh, I make it to 30. He got to 30. He's like, well, looks like I'm here. I better make the most of it.
Might as well have a kid.
Yeah, might as well have a kid, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that's fucking really cool.
Yeah, and he's still charging pretty hard. He just came back from the Blue Mountains base jumping trip.
Yeah. I actually saw a few of the boys down there.
Yeah. So I think it's really cool to share that experience, and maybe everyone has their different things, right? But my work now is kind of turned from just breathing into like figuring out how to like get in touch with your emotions and your feelings and
Bringing everything together.
yeah, and being able to release them. Because I think one thing I've just discovered is that when you're holding on to these emotions, it creates blockages. And this sounds kind of like, it sounds hippie, and we might say energetic problems.
All that stuff is fucking coming to the mainstream now, bro.
Yeah.
It's fucking been around since like the beginning of time. Eastern medicine, like that sort of energy work is.
Yeah. They talk that's qi in Chinese medicine.
Life
It's
force,
prana
right?
in yoga, and these guys, they had it figured out because they were so in touch with their bodies.
Fucking oath. Well, because once again, there wasn't anywhere near as much stimulation or distraction, right?
Exactly. And I can tell you, man, and you're probably the same. When you release these energetic blockages and your energy is flowing, like when your energy is not flowing, you can eat all the high energy food and drink all the coffee, but you'll still have mad fatigue.
Yeah.
Once you clear this stuff out, your energy is just next level. You feel superhuman.
I feel that, bro.
Yeah, and once you learn how to regulate and control this energy, and that's what we're doing with Yoga Nidra.
Yeah.
You know, it does, we talk about it. I love the science of it as well, and that it increases your dopamine, and, you know, with sleep, you increase your testosterone and all this stuff as well. Love the Human podcast. Love what that guy's putting out there.
100%, bro. He's
Yeah.
showing you Feb. We're going to see him.
And so when I first
Excited
like
as.
got told about this, you know, feel it to heal it stuff and feeling your emotions, and when you get triggered to like find a quiet space and fully like feel where it is in your body and, you know, feel whatever that emotion is and go into it. And I'm like, yeah, cool. Okay. I'll do that. Right. And I got home to do it and I was like, I've realized I've spent a good almost 40 years at trying to block these emotions. And I
Now
didn't.
you're telling me to feel
Now you're
them?
telling me to feel it? Like,
What?
I don't know how. And it was a journey to learn how to do that.
That in itself would have been a massive moment of realization for you, right?
Oh, yeah. And I'm still figuring it out to points like I've definitely worked it out. But what I really want to figure out now is to learn how to do it instantly. Yeah. Just for something to come up, and I'm getting better at it, of just feeling that kind of feeling it in your body when you're triggered with something and just being like, dissipate. Yeah, to let it go.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing, bro. Like it's easier said than done. It's simple,
Yeah.
but it's not easy, right? And
Yeah.
everyone talks about this: feel the emotion and just let it go, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're so geared to do the opposite, react.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's literally in society, it's what we do. Like something happens, we feel triggered, we fight.
Yeah.
You know, we react as opposed
And
to.
there's
stepping
times where
back.
that might serve you as well.
Right.
What if someone's being a total fuckhead?
Yeah. And you need to headbutt them in the bridge of the nose.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's also feeling your anger without it taking control over you.
Right.
You're like, I can fully feel this. My anger's here for a reason.
Yeah.
This guy's a threat to my family. You know, if someone came in this house and your boy was here, you'd deal with that dude
Fucking
straight
oath,
away.
man.
If you had a
I'll go to
cricket
jail.
bat here,
I'll
yeah,
go back to jail, 100%.
100%.
In a heartbeat.
All
I
this
had
would.
this conversation with someone just the other day, and I'm like, I'll literally go back to jail for my family.
Yep,
Yeah, it's
100%.
right down to it.
So that's where getting in touch with your anger is going to be. But if someone cuts you off in traffic, like, you know,
You're in your day because
what are you
of
going to like run into their car or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that actually worth it?
Yeah.
And maybe that person, like, he cut you off because he's in a hurry to get to the hospital because his missus is having a baby. You don't know that. Chances are he's just a fuckhead, but
Yeah,
you know,
well,
yeah.
But this is the thing I think, and I was actually speaking about this on another podcast I did last week with a guy called Corey Boutwell, and he was really, I guess, integral to this as well. Is as men especially, like we get labelled with this toxic masculinity, right?
But there is nowhere for us to be able to be vulnerable, which is a super important part of being a man. But on the back end of that, also a way to express our anger, because as men we get anger. It's like if you get angry, you're abusive. That's a DV thing.
Yeah.
Right? We need to have this within the male culture where we actually have ways of releasing these things because these emotions need to be felt. And if you suppress them and suppress them and suppress them, eventually, like anything, it's going to boil over and break.
Robert Greene calls it the shadow. I think it comes from Jungian
I've got his
theory.
book coming as well, that one.
That's Mastery. I highly recommend The Laws of Human Nature.
I've got that one coming on in as well.
Oh,
yeah,
sick.
I bought like 7 or 8 books.
I've read that a few times.
Yes.
That's my go-to. So he exactly talked about that. If we're trying to like repress all these emotions, then they just stay stored up, and then they rear their ugly head at the most inappropriate of times. You know, you might,
Triggered, right?
you're triggered by your boss or something, and then you punch your boss in the face, or you call him a fuckhead or whatever.
It wasn't his fault. It was that childhood
Yeah.
trauma that's
Yeah,
come up. It's
exactly.
everything
That was
along
just the
line.
straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
But if you can release it in a healthy way, like take it to the gym, use the gym, go in with the intention at the gym, boxing.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. It's 100%. I believe in that.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of like the therapy culture today is coming from almost kind of a feminine perspective.
And almost a place of shame too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, you feel anger coming up, you have to down regulate from it. No, no, that's just what we were talking about.
Angry.
Yeah. Oh, anger. That's a bad emotion. Toxic masculinity.
Yeah,
It's
Exactly
not
what it
even
says.
toxic masculinity, it's just toxicness in general.
Yeah.
Being
Exactly.
a shit human.
Exactly.
Nothing to do with the masculine culture.
And females have a shadow as well, right?
Right.
Like we all have it. And you see
Exactly.
it come up in everybody.
Yeah.
We just have this, we have a lot more testosterone as well.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting thing about someone who was someone who was originally a woman, sorry,
Go down
who was
there.
making the
Don't go
transition,
there, bro.
who was making the transition and was getting testosterone
Getting
replacement
cancelled.
therapies. But anyway, it was someone who was getting testosterone replacement therapy who was born with female parts.
Yep.
And they were like, holy shit, just feeling all this aggression and everything come up in them, but had no like way of releasing it because they'd never had that in their life, right? And didn't know how to
Wow.
handle it. Yeah, so
That's mind blowing, eh?
yeah, I think it's just understanding each other. And you have a book up there, The Way of the Superior Man.
Great fucking book.
It's a great book, but most of that is understanding women, is teaching men how to understand women.
Yep. What do they want?
Yeah, what do they want and their emotion, looking at just the differences around it. We're maybe generally speaking more analytical, they're generally speaking more emotional.
Emotionally, that's right. We
So-
want to solve, they want to
Yeah.
vent, they want to feel.
So sometimes it feels like a woman's lying, she might say something in the moment that's true because she's speaking her emotions, where we're like, that contradicts something that you said a week
Logically,
ago.
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you contradicted what you were saying, but she in the moment is telling the truth of how she feels. So we make all this effort, I think, to understand women by reading books like that, at least the conscious men of us do, and the conscious women try to understand men more. But I think it could be a really good thing to be out there more for people in general to understand men. Men understand themselves, and for women to understand men and realize that we do have this aggression and we need a healthy outlet for it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And woman, if you're with a guy and you're noticing that this shadow is creeping up and it comes out as passive aggressiveness, like talk about it and maybe suggest like the right platform to, the right help to find a healthy expression of this anger that's getting pent up.
100%, brother.
Yeah.
Man, I could talk about this shit all night, but I'm getting
Yeah.
hungry and those steaks are fucking
Yeah.
calling my name. But before we go and sign off for the night, bro, first of all, top 5 resources for anyone wanting to find out more about breathwork.
You can contact me directly.
Yeah.
My website is boundlessbreathing.com.au or on Instagram at boundlessbreathing.
Yep.
I
I'll
really,
put everything in the show notes. Like I
yeah,
said anyway,
really recommend the book Breath by James Nestor.
Yeah.
That's got some practical exercises at the end, but it also talks about different modalities.
Yeah.
You might find some stuff for you. Patrick McEwen, he has a lot of stuff on YouTube. He's a really good Buteyko instructor, and he has the oxygen advantage, which is the Buteyko method applied to sports. So for people who are really into health and fitness, which I imagine most of your audience is.
Yeah, I at
that's-
least want to be, yeah.
Yeah. I'm also an oxygen advantage instructor as well.
Awesome, brother.
So if you want to know more about that, just reach out. And like I said, if anyone wants a free non-sleep deep rest, like a 15-minute one, then reach out and I'll email you through. And we can even put the link into one of my favorite ones in the show notes as well.
Fucking love that, bro. And then another last question before we finish up, bro, is top 5 influences that have been people that you really look up to who've changed your life.
We've already mentioned one of them, Jason
Yeah.
Rice.
The breathwork guy.
Yep,
Yeah. On the Gold Coast, yeah.
on the Gold Coast.
Yeah,
Yeah,
awesome.
surf apnea instructor trainer.
Yeah.
Yeah, just all round Kiwi as well, former cop.
Oh,
Very I'm probably a little bit more spiritual than he is in a few ways,
Yeah.
but he's just a wealth of knowledge. And
Yeah,
whenever he does something really well.
The sort of guy you just want to pick his brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck yeah.
One of my yoga teachers, her name's Beck Isaacs.
Yep.
She's what they call a kinesiologist in Canada, which is like an exercise physiologist, but also way down the yoga path. And I love her work because she's really good at translating the very spiritual yoga stuff into modern day practical.
Yeah, making it
Yeah,
understandable, right?
yeah. At the start of her yoga classes, she would give a little talk, and every time I felt like she was talking directly to me,
I love that.
but she's talking directly to the human experience.
Yeah.
Where are we top 5? We're 2 down. In life, for parents, and I reckon probably even my dad, for a few reasons.
Okay.
It was me and Dad the time when I died.
Yeah.
And so we were in Samoa. After I died, they put me in the hospital for a few days. Third world hospital, cockroaches on the side of the wall. Dad did not leave apart from to go get me food. He was sitting on, those old wooden uncomfortable school chairs. he slept on one of those. I remember waking up in the middle of the night and he's sitting there with his arms crossed, sleeping on one of them. Didn't leave my side. Also taught me that if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing well. And also, he's a lawyer, and he taught me to never get an office job.
What a good man.
Preaching to the converted already there, Dad.
Man, my man.
What are we up to? 3. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. Let's leave it with, I think 3 is a really good number. Yeah.
Awesome, brother. I'm going to grab the name of those books off you if you can send them through. I'm going to put those in the show notes as well as links and everything like that. But, brother, my man, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, man.
Love it. Popped my
Absolute pleasure.
podcast cherry. I listen to them all the time. Stoked I'm on one.